Good morning, Team Wilpers. How is everybody today? It's Coach Lorri. It's Friday. I do my best writing on Fridays. I realize when I write my TED Talk, it's going to be 52 Fridays in a row. Anyways, for those of you who are new here, I'm Coach Lorri Lown. I am with Team Wilpers Cycling, and I live on the West Coast. I'm in Capitola, California, and I've been coaching for almost 25 years, mostly cycling, a little bit of running. Been an endurance athlete, a mediocre but dedicated endurance athlete for almost 30 now. So it's been a great run. I have been part of Team Wilpers for the last 5 years since the pandemic, and mostly fitting bikes. And then a couple of years ago, I was asked to take over the group coaching programs, the Peloton programs, and it has been one of the best experiences ever. So, as I said last week, by now you've decided you either love me or hate me. And I think based on your responses that you're having really a lot of fun with this challenge. So hopefully it's more on the love side than the hate, but they're close emotions. We know that. Peloton Triathlon. How fun was that? Those of you who got to ride in the studio, like me, congratulations. And many of you rode live. I was sad I couldn't ride live. I had to coach a cycling clinic last week, and so I did go on the app and threw thousands of high fives. So if you got a high five from me, I'm Savvy Bike, sending you all the love last Saturday as you rode and you ran and you rode. We rode and we rode, right? So, and how great was it to have Matt back in the studio after his paternity leave? I think he, super excited, as he says, I'm back, baby. And, yeah, it's great to have him back. He has the best energy ever. So, it was more than just a live class last week or an on-demand class. I felt this energy. It was really exciting. I know Willie Tibbetts, you and I started out together on Sunday morning. And my triathlon did not go as planned. I didn't practice my transitions or anything. I just I knew that I could pair my rower at the gym, and I assumed I could pair the treadmill and the bike too. And I got caught up for about half an hour trying to pair a treadmill, and my OCD wouldn't let me just take the class without it. And I should have just, whatever. It didn't work, but I did the class, I did the work, and it was super fun. And interesting because I used a lot of muscles I don't usually use. I was a little sore at the end of a 90-minute workout. I also haven't done 90 minutes of cardio really since I've taken some time off the bike. And the other thing is I haven't got my heart rate that high in a long time because I've been hiking and rowing. And in rowing, your heart rate doesn't go all that high because you're sitting on your butt basically. So running, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this feeling. This is exciting. And in the past, my legs have always been a limiter when I start running. And this time I was like, yeah, it's the cardio. So it was great. And I was really happy to do it and to participate, and so inspired by everybody who has jumped in to participate as well. And I've been loving all of your experiences on Facebook and Strava and the fact that you had so much fun. So, yeah. And this fit into my theme of doing something new this year. That has been the theme of my 60th year here. So I have a quote that I remember first learning when I started running at the age of 54, which is just, prime age for running. But I was feeling a little stagnant on the bike and decided I would try something different and new. And I also had a specific duathlon I had been trying to win for a long time. So I started running, and it turned into my sport for about 5 years. I was mostly doing that. And I remember finding this meme, basically, that said, be brave enough to suck at something new. And I encourage all of you to think about that for a minute and share your thoughts on it as well. So be brave enough to suck at something new. And so as I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about this morning, I looked for the origin of that quote, right? That's how I knew that quote. And it's one of those things that you see on motivational workplace posters or at the gym or on t-shirts or Instagram memes. That's where I think I found it. And so I went down a rabbit hole trying to learn about this quote. And it's very interesting because there's many attributions to this quote because, as you know, with the internet, anybody can be an original and there's no real way to tell who is the original. So there's a gentleman named John Acuff, A-C-U-F-F. He is a New York Times bestselling author. He's a motivational speaker, and he has kind of a niche in his own way about leadership and learning and Christianity and that kind of thing. And he wrote a quote that said, "Be brave enough to be bad at something new." I was like, yeah, that's a little classier than me saying that I suck at something new. So maybe it was him. And then I found Stacy Keogh. She's also a New York Times bestselling author. And her niche is online marketing. She's a guru in that space. And how do I maximize my presence on social media and all of that? And she wrote something just slightly different, which is be brave enough to try something new. You might just succeed, which I think is pretty positive. But I think my favorite version of it came from Dolly Parton. Everybody loves Dolly Parton, right? She said, "You'll never do a whole lot unless you're brave enough to try." So that's going to be my new inspiration, Dolly Parton. You'll never do a whole lot unless you're brave enough to try. And to that, I would say none of us are born being good at anything, really, except maybe pooping and peeing and burping, right? You've heard me use the quote before. This one's mine. You don't need to give birth to a 17-year-old, right? We're not perfect. We don't have baggage. We don't have skill sets. We don't come out of the womb knowing how to do much at all, except those innate keep you alive skills like breathing and crying. We're good at crying. But anyways, I was thinking about, so if we're all born in the same place, we all start in the same place and we learn, and learning as a young person is much more common than learning as an older person, I think. We've normalized, we go to school. And there are people who never learn more after school. Isn't that crazy? It's none of you. You know, the difference between those who prosper and those who are stagnant. And it's really, I think it's 3 qualities. 3, and be brave enough to try something new, right? So curiosity, we have this desire to know and to learn. We read books, we take classes, we listen to podcasts, we try new foods and new sports, we experiment. There is definitely a sense of curiosity with people who excel in this world, whether they are people who invent new things or people who just learn new things. The people who are interesting to talk to at the cocktail parties, who always intimidate me because I always think, I have nothing interesting to say. Why would I, I'm a social, awkward person. And why would anyone want to talk to me? I have nothing interesting to say. I'm just me. But I have this curiosity. I like to learn things, languages and musical instruments, and about different cultures. And even within the United States, I've traveled to places where people are like, why would you want to go there? I'm like, because it's part of our history. I'm curious about the people there, wherever there is, right? So we have curiosity. The second quality, I think, is bravery, right? So the quote says that. Bravery. What is bravery? The willingness to take a risk, to do something that scares you, to do something that someone hasn't done before. And we know that we take this risk in order to achieve a reward of some sort, right? So we increase knowledge, or we meet new people, or we succeed at something. If you never tried the sport, how are you going to become an Olympian, right? So be brave enough to try something new. So we're curious, we're brave. We have humility. And I think that's a hard one. I live in Silicon Valley, right? So humility, knowing that I have weaknesses, knowing what they are, and knowing that I can improve. And here I live in this place where everybody is really good at what they do. But you have to have that humility to know that you could do something better, or know that maybe somebody else can do something better than you, and that's okay, because you can learn from that person. That's where curiosity comes in, right? Or maybe they're my mentor, and I have the bravery to be able to say to them, I want to learn from you. So that's what I think separates the Peloton community from a lot of other people. And it's interesting, when I first started working in this community and doing Bike Fit, I heard a lot of people say, oh, I'm not an athlete. I'm not very good at this. I don't know what I'm doing. And I would say, you're learning and you're growing and you're part of an amazing community. Think about that first ride where maybe you could ride for 5 minutes and everything hurt. Or the frustration you felt because you couldn't clip into your pedals or clip out of your pedals. And some of you I know probably still can't. But none of us were perfect at this. We all started in one place, but we've all developed. And many of us have developed as a group, as a team. We've helped each other. We've learned. And I think that's one of the things especially that is special about Team Wilpers is we do this together. Right? Together we go far, Peloton says. Yeah. So celebrate your success. If you did something different this week, and I love reading the comments, those of you who are taking the cardio classes who are like, oh, I never would have tried doing this. Or who are rowing because you have a rower at your workplace and you can do it at lunch. And you're like, oh, this is different and new. Or you've gone back to running and you haven't run in a long time. So it's exciting to do something new. We always learn, we improve, and it keeps us young, I think. And so here back to my year of change and new things and improvement. And a year ago, I started strength training. A year ago tomorrow. So 364 days. Wait a minute, was it a leap year? Anyways, I knew a year ago that I was really good at riding a bike and pretty good at running. I wasn't good at life activities. In the fitness world or the health world, we call them ADLs, activities of daily living. And I felt like I was aging. I felt like I couldn't do a lot of things that I probably should be able to do at 59 years old. I felt weak. I felt like I was so imbalanced, especially my back. I felt like my back was super weak and super overstretched, and my posture was bad, and I couldn't open jars, and I had a hard time dragging my bike through the airport, and I was fatigued from that. Or I just felt dysfunctional, like I was aging rapidly. And that's a strange concept to an athlete. You think, oh, athletes are healthy. Athletes stay young. No, we get really good at one thing, and we get really bad at everything else. So I had made a commitment last summer in advance before I raced at Nationals to hire a strength coach. And I was ready to go when I got back from Nationals. So that week I started working with my coach. Her name is Amber, and I really like her. She's awesome. And when you start working with a coach, well, first of all, why did I hire a coach? Because I actually am certified as a trainer. I have everything I need in my house, like many of you, right? I bought all the weights. I have a TRX. I have all the foam rollers and the things and the knowledge. But I'm not motivated to do it on my own. That's a big one for me. And I know a lot of you who are, cardio athletes. We do aerobic sports, endurance sports. We're not motivated by strength. I was having a conversation yesterday on Instagram with one of our athletes who actually a lot of folks know because she takes a lot of classes in person and she does lots of cardio activities but doesn't do a lot of strength. And she's working on that as well. We were having the conversation about why strength is not as motivating to us as cardiovascular exercise. And so I needed someone to help me motivate. I needed accountability. I needed to show up at a given time in a given place. And I feel like I wanted something very personalized to me because I am a special flower, as you all know, and I have some dysfunction in my hips and my spine and some other things that have happened over the years, some congenital, some due to, the way that I have abused my body. And I wanted someone who would make sure that I didn't get injured and that I didn't do too much or too little, because that's kind of, what I tend to do if left to my own devices, whether it's training on the bike or training in something else, because that's just my personality. I second guess everything. I should do more. I'm not getting better. I should do more. Usually the answer, as you know, is do less. You'll get better. And I felt like I knew just enough to be dangerous, which is a bad thing in the strength world. when you have a delicate flower body and you want to make sure you don't get injured. So I hired this coach. And if you've ever worked with a trainer or a coach, you know that the first thing you do is an assessment, right? You take history, you write your goals, and you do an assessment. And it includes a bunch of benchmarks. We all know benchmarks, like an FTP test. But in the case of strength and fitness, what did we do? We measured body composition, right? We measured body weight and measured actual, parts of my body, which is very interesting. I'll share a couple of those after. But we did a couple of cardio tests. She told me we didn't do them yesterday because she told me yesterday we did, they call them the YMCA tests, and because it's the standard for physical assessment. And one of them, I vaguely remember this, was having to step up and down onto something as many times as I could in a minute. And apparently I did 80, which she's never seen anyone do. And she's like, oh yeah, you don't need to test your cardio. But anyways, we do cardio tests, strength tests, flexibility tests, mobility tests. And most coaches, what they'll do is, every 6, 8, 12 weeks, they'll assess you again. And I was like, no, I don't want to assess again. You know that I'm improving. You can see the things I can do functionally, right? I can open jars now. I can put my luggage in the overhead bin. I can do all kinds of things that I couldn't do physically. But I didn't want to waste a training session on an assessment. But my 1-year anniversary. So I took my strength coach to dinner the other night. And it was also her birthday yesterday. And so we had planned to do an assessment. And I had said, okay, this will be good. This will be motivating. We can now actually have some numbers because functional assessment is good, but actually having some benchmarks. And then it allows me to set some goals for next year. What do I still want to improve? Knowing that when we first do an assessment, when we first start doing a thing, that improvement curve is huge. When you start something new, you get better. As long as you're consistent. You don't even need a good program. You just need to show up and you get better. But after that, it's fine-tuning. And then the improvement isn't as great. So I wanted to do an assessment. So yesterday morning, bright and early, we did our assessment. And I was excited because I knew I had improved. I mean, you see those things in modern day, right? I have an app that tells me, oh, you've lifted more than you've ever lifted in all the different exercises. I step on the scale and I know that my body weight has changed and my body composition has changed. And I know that my clothes fit differently. So there were no real surprises there, but I thought it was interesting. And now I have some things to measure and benchmark from next year. We started actually with measurements, right? So scales and all that, but she took the tape measure and she's like, oh, you lost an inch on your neck. And I was like, oh, yay, I have a chin again. This is great. I lost an inch on my neck. And then she's like, oh, you lost 3 inches on your boobs. I'm like, yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. Women in the audience will understand that, who, change weight. And 3 inches on my waist, which was also good because I always felt like as I've aged, and I think many of my women of a certain age can share this, it's like, wait, my waist has gone away. Where did it go? That's changed. So those were all good. And she didn't tell me going into any of this what last year's numbers were. And I didn't really want her to. I wanted to see what I could do with my own motivation. And so we went through exercises. I did a plank and I held it for like 2.5 minutes longer than last time. My core strength and my back strength has improved significantly. 2.5 minutes longer. And I held it pretty long last time. Push-ups. How many push-ups can you do in a minute? Wow, I tripled that number. That was awesome. And then we did some weights. And the one that she was most interested in was my deadlift because it is a measure of how your body is working all together. And again, I knew what I'd been lifting for normal training, but I didn't know what my 1 rep max was. And that's always a measure, right? What's the most you can lift for one lift? And we go, and she's like, is that it? And I'm like, no, I'm good. Is that it? She had more weight. Is that it? And so finally, I knew I had gotten to a specific weight and she added plates and I thought it got me over the threshold of 200 pounds. I was at 190 and I was like, oh, okay, that's not it. We have to go again. And so yesterday I lifted 130 7% of my body weight. I had to figure that out. And last year, when I weighed a bunch more, I lifted 59% of my body weight. So huge improvement there. And I'm really proud of that as someone who wasn't very functional. But the other things I'm super happy about, beside the fact that I'm more functional. My brain is more functional. I feel like I've gotten faster and quicker and smarter in the last year. Right? I'm talking faster. My pain. You know, I'm someone as an athlete, like many of you, who have these niggles, we call them, and then aging changes that. And as our hormones change, right? When estrogen and testosterone drop, we end up with all of these fun and exciting features like joint pain and connective tissue disorders, right? The itises and the OCs, the frozen shoulders and the golfer's elbow and the plantar fasciitis and all of that. And it's like, I've realized as I've done this that my body doesn't feel discomfort anymore. Even after a long day of working in my bike fit studio, I'll fit for 8 hours and I'm bending and twisting and lifting and doing things that maybe aren't biomechanically sound. And I feel great when I finish. And I used to be fatigued and sore and my back would hurt and all those things. So improvement in a year. But the interesting thing about this, and this is, you know, Amber had said to me when we finished, she said, people don't see the long game. And I agree with that. We've talked about that, right? We don't see the horizon. What we see is what's right now, which is actually too late, right? That's actually the next, in my opinion. We don't realize that the improvement that we see is a year down the line or 10 years down the line. Like investing, right? You invest your money and you start when you're whatever age and you don't see a lot of change, but it compounds. And fitness is the same way. It's an investment in your aging process. It's an investment in your health and your fitness. And maybe you don't see it each time you do a 20-minute strength workout. And then you're 90 years old and you can still do push-ups, right? So that's what we're thinking about, that progress. And when we look at the curve of progress, it is not linear. I mean, yeah, you see improvement, but you have ups and downs. You have illnesses, you have travel, you have lack of motivation, you have things that happen, bumps in the road. And so you have to look at the long-term trend. I'm not just going to look at that number today, right? Sound familiar with your FTP and everything else? So I'm going to look at the long term. I go up and I go down and I go up and I go down, but there's my finger way over here. I eventually am trending upward, hopefully. And that's how we see progress. And she said, yeah, most clients, they'll work with me for 3 months. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah. And then either they don't see progress or they think the investment is not worth it. And then they just flounder, most of them. So commit. I think commit to seeing the long-term results. I guess that's the moral of this story, the conclusion, which is be curious, as we all are, and try new things, whether that's a new sport or a new language or joining Toastmasters or a book club or whatever it is. Challenge yourself. Be curious to learn these new things. Be brave enough to do it. Allow yourself, it's okay to be scared, but challenge yourself with that. And what was my third one? Oh yeah, be humble and know that you're not going to be perfect. And that's okay. That I can try new things. And dude, watch me do a dance cardio class. It's pretty funny, right? But it's fun. It's challenging. It's something different. Box jumps. I was terrified of box jumps, right? How many of you like box jumps? I feel like my legs have been going like this for my entire life, right? I've been riding a bike, one and the other, and one and the other. And now you make me jump with both legs. It's a real challenge, a mental challenge and a physical challenge. So I applaud you for doing something different this time, right? So we're curious, we're brave, and we're humble. And have the courage, be brave enough to try something new. And as Dolly said, right? So I have to remember this quote because she's now my favorite. You'll never do a whole lot, unless you're brave enough to try. So congratulations, everybody who did the try, everybody who's doing the challenge. Just a couple of basics for this week. Here we go. More of the same. So pick your classes and let us know how you're doing. Try something new. Try something new every week. It's great. Some of you are doing multiple classes, and that's fine too. Switch it up or do the same thing. Whatever you want to do, I just want you to participate and to try something. It's good to try things. Everything's on the platform. We know that. PDFs are there. They have clickable links. I'm really digging that. I have to say, I'll click on the link and make my stack at home because I don't have very good coverage in the gym, and then I preload everything and it's right there. All I have to do, click on the link. And the 3 free is in the Facebook group, and that should have launched this morning. It did, I saw that. If you're interested in all access, you get all the other things, 5 classes a week and strength, and you can do any of the running or cycling programs. So join your Facebook chat groups. They're still here for now. We have a plan if they go away, because Facebook keeps telling us they're going to go away, but we'll see. And support each other and challenge each other and keep moving. So that's about it. Happy Friday, everybody. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you on the leaderboard.